In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. The town of Lunenburg, in response to COVID-19, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread, and all town facilities are currently open by appointment to the public. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. This meeting will be recorded and be able to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link below to join the public meeting webinar, which was provided in the agenda. From a telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter the webinar ID 889-5150-0445. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Okay, welcome. Happy New Year. I wanted to, just before I go to the first agenda item, I wanted to ask, do any members of the board have any conflicts later on tonight where they have to leave early? No. Okay. Great.
I do have to leave around shortly after 7.
Okay. All right. So Dave, you'll have to leave. I just trying to avoid what happened the last 2 meetings where we once got cut off. Doesn't sound like we have that problem with the Zoom. And then one time we had a quorum issue at the end. So I want to try to end the meeting before we have a lack of quorum. So I'm just trying to be proactive on that. So it sounds like we're in good shape tonight. Okay. Is there any public comment from the public? And again, I'd ask if you could use the raised hand feature or raise your hand in your physically raise your hand. I see you, Steve. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, and thank you. I'm Steve Walker, 227 Pleasant Street. I'm also the chair of the Public Access Cable Committee. I'd sent an email to Greg at the end of last year. Just wanted to make sure that the topics got properly covered, which may or may not be simple. The first one is that your last meeting, you had a discussion on the outside doors for the buildings, and I'd like to remind you that PAC also needs an outside door to the building for out-of-hours access, and we would request that it has the same appearance as the other doors, needs card access as well. Our main corridor entrance, the internal corridor of the building, not the internal one of PAC, needs to look like the other departmental entrances. However, we need to have a monitor mounted right next door to it in whichever manner meets code, doesn't cause an obstruction in the corridor, such that we can have a silent quad display of our 3 channels plus 1 additional internal channel, or we just switch it to 1 channel. So in the design for the internal doors, we would like to ensure that that is included. The third topic, right now, I've tried to raise the issue before that the building needs a loading dock in all probability, not only for making the major move when it's necessary, but also on an ongoing basis. Supplies, office supplies, new copiers, but also PAC will need occasional access to something like that. So I would appreciate it if I could be part of any discussion you may choose to have on that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Any other members of the public? One sec, Dave.
Are you ready for committee public
Sure.
comment? Or you?
Yeah, I think so. I just like to wait because I hate to, sometimes
Yep.
people have technical difficulties,
Not a
so I think we're good. Okay, I'll now move to public comments from the committee members. Go ahead, Dave.
Yep. I just want to bring to the attention of the committee and thank Mr. Wander and his maintenance crew. An issue was brought to his attention on the outside of the Passios building. A panel had actually fallen off between one of the window sets on that west wing, exposing 2x4s and allowing rain and snow to get into the interior wall and possibly run down and damage interior finishes. Once they were made aware, it was taken care of very quickly, and I thank them for that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Anybody else? Okay. Taking this a little bit out of order, but I realized I forgot to call the roll. So I'm going to do that at this point just to make sure everybody's working. I just realized I forgot to do that. So I will call your name, just answer present. Dave Blatt,
Present.
Dave Passios,
Present.
Brian Leighton,
Present.
Matthew Allison,
Present.
and Michael Ray Jeffries.
Present.
Okay, did I miss anybody? You guys are all, the names are bouncing more than usual on my screen tonight, so. Okay, we will turn to a review of updated plans and information from the architects, the design team. So, Tom, I saw that you sent out some materials this evening, but I'll turn it over to you and Ed to walk us through that in the way you see fit.
Thanks, and happy new year, everyone. And we hope we can meet again in person in the space at some point before the town meeting. I'm just very optimistic. So I'd like to have Ed do some updates first. Ed might have another commitment that he has to leave around 6:30. So I just do the pretty stuff and he deals with the real issues. So we thought we should talk about the real issues first.
Thanks, Tom.
Anytime.
And Happy New Year. Yeah, a couple issues just to update the committee on. Right before this meeting, we sent out an updated civil site plan that showed the parking areas, areas of the new full depth pavement and the overlays. What's different with this plan from this evening from one you've seen previously is we've added back in the existing sidewalks around the west wing. Based on our recent user meetings for the west wing, we were told that they'd like to keep the existing exterior doors.
Excuse me, Ed, would you like me to share the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Greg,
Sure.
may I?
Yeah.
I have the,
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
no problem. Thanks. Sorry, Ed.
No, that's okay, thanks. So what's different from the previous version is that the west wing, previously we we're going to remove all that sidewalk because it was intended to remove all those existing exterior doors. And Thompson had some additional meetings with the user groups and they'd like to keep those exterior doors as a second means of egress. So we've kept those walkways and the purple color indicates we're doing a bit pavement overlay over those existing walkways, as well as all the other walkways that are to remain. We're also doing an overlay on the east parking lot, which was brought up at the last meeting as well. We took a second look at the pavement in that east parking area and agree that it should be overlaid with a fresh course of pavement. So those are the major revisions. The new parking is the same. The parking count's the same. None of that has changed. We've just updated the overlay areas. So that's on the civil site side. I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Yeah, okay, we'll take questions. I'll just go right down through. I'll start with Brian.
Thank you. I like the sidewalk on the northeast for access for the kids from the middle and high school. I think that makes sense for that walkway. I did have a question. Did you consider, I guess, kids coming from the middle and high school going to the Boys and Girls Club towards that southwest? I feel like they'd follow that crosswalk, continue west, and then would they get onto that purple, follow that down to the bottom? I didn't know if this should be consideration of a crosswalk or I guess in that southwest corner. I just want to make sure that we don't have kids crossing traffic, trying to get to the Boys and Girls Club down the street.
So where are you talking about the, in the upper right-hand corner where there's the new crosswalk from the middle school?
Yeah, I think they'll continue that walk going all the way
Yeah.
down around the
Mhm.
green, then they'll run into that green blue
Mm-hmm.
or the purple blue. I didn't know if that makes sense to put a crosswalk, say, where that blue and green intersect on the southwest.
To cross the street, which is not on the drawing. You mean moving?
Yeah, you can't see the bottom. That's why I was wondering. It's just something
Yeah.
to consider.
Yeah, Tom, if you could move to that drawing, there should be a crosswalk there,
Okay, let me,
what Brian's describing. I think it's the next drawing.
maybe,
It went up. Yeah, right there. So there's a crosswalk at the end of the green where it intersects with the blue sidewalk and the purple pavement in the road. You can see there is a crosswalk there. It's kind of screened, but there's a crosswalk to go from the patios, right where Tom's showing it to the side. Is that what you were referring to that you'd like to see?
So I'm referring to that area. I don't know if there should be a crosswalk going across the green. So in that
Mhm.
entryway to get into the parking lot,
Mhm.
to go across that sidewalk, does there need to be a crosswalk there?
Yeah, the
Going
crosswalk.
horizontally?
Yeah, it's there because of the parking that's on that side. There's a walkway as you work your way back up towards that intersection. So then there's a crosswalk to either go to the TCP building or when you're leaving it to get to the parking that's around that island. Is
Ed,
there
I think-
another?
I think what he's talking about is across the end of the entrance to the road that heads around the west wing, because the kids will be walking up that new blue sidewalk towards the teen center. So off the north, I would say the north end of that existing crosswalk across the driveway to the left in the picture.
Okay, maybe Tom, you can sketch that in so we can all see it.
so we're saying around here,
It's going to be across Area 5, the green of Area 5, where you have the blue that intersects the green. But, you know, if you go down lower, you have the sidewalk. If you go down towards the main turnaround, you have a sidewalk there. So there needs to be a crosswalk. Bring it down more. Bring it down more. Right there in
Right
that blue.
there.
In the
Right.
blue.
In the blue going across.
so it should go like this.
No, you had it right the first
Horizontally.
time. You had it right.
Horizontally.
So it's parallel with the sidewalk. It just crosses the driveway.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we can definitely add that. Yeah.
And if you have a sidewalk cutting through there, there's going to be some sort of crosswalk required, isn't there? Because you're showing a sidewalk crossing a road.
Yeah, there will be.
There will be, yeah. There'll be
Right.
the curb cuts, the ADA curb cuts all around that area.
Okay, was that it, Brian?
Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
How about Michael Ray? Anything?
Nothing.
Okay, David Passios.
Yeah, just a quick question, Ed. If you can give me a number of feet of area impacted from either the existing walkway along the front west wing or off the foundation of the building to up into where the retaining wall is and where the road will be constructed and parking. I'm just wondering how much of that area is going to be impacted by the construction and grading and so on and so forth. My guess was that it was about 200 feet out from the foundation, but I'm wondering if that's correct.
Yeah, I'll have to ask our civil engineer to check that on his CAD drawing to give you a actual number on that.
Okay.
And then-
So, excuse me, are you talking about the lanes like from here to the retaining wall, Dave?
No, from the foundation of the existing building to the outside of the excavation
Oh,
to
like
create that road through.
from here to here?
Correct.
Like a perpendicular, yeah, from the
Yep.
building.
There and at the upper corner also where the retaining wall is going to be. Because there'll need to be a don't disturb area. That may be the wrong terminology. That's more conservation, but beyond that green area, there's going to be an area that's going to be dedicated to grading and you know, no impact on that wall, so on and so forth.
Let me see if I can get that right.
I think he's driving at a limit of work there. We can establish a limit of
Yeah,
work.
that's the
along that-
terminology. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I mean, probably need to overlay grading on that, Ed, and see how that comes out, but anything
Yeah,
else, Dave?
I'll
Nope.
have them determine that and get back to you on it. We'll have them
Okay, appreciate it.
online, yeah.
Matt Allison.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of that stands out to me is I'm wondering, you've got existing sidewalks, and then you're gonna build a new sidewalk in front of the parking. Aside from the existing trees, which I'm not even sure the condition of, is there a reason not to use, well, to bring the nose of the parking stalls right up to the existing walk instead of building a second one?
I had that same question. It's a good question. Yeah,
Bring the green, the brand new parking up to the trees closer.
Well, basically, what I'm talking about would eliminate those trees. I'm not sure what condition they're in. I think they've been there since I was in first grade there.
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
I think that's what the concern was. It was the trees.
yeah. I looked at those the other day when I was walking by there. I think it's varied, Matt. I think there's a couple of them that are in pretty good shape still, and I think there's at least one of them that has a pretty good that took a beating in one of the storms, ice storm or.
The other
So-
thing is that I think it's laid out the way it is now because we had expressed in a previous meeting that we liked that strip of green space and the trees left in place. So I would disagree with extending the parking lot to that walkway, but that's my
What about the other
personal
way?
feeling.
What about the other way around? If we're gonna have to redo the walkway anyhow, just make the walkway next to the parking. I'm still, my question is gonna be on the doors, but I'll wait for my turn. I don't see a purpose that we have that many, that's an expensive thing to have all those doors for egress. You know?
Well, hang on one second. Let's just make sure
Yeah,
Matt's done.
I know.
Matt,
So I
did
would
you
look
have
at it, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, maybe moving the walkway to the other side of the trees.
All right, hang on. Bear with us. Well, I guess we're talking about that. I don't know if we want to take that up now or if we want to.
Does it make sense to talk about the doors and then we can back into the walkway?
Sure. So
I can
Matt,
explain.
did you have any other, let's just, that topic needs more discussion, but I just don't want to. Did you have anything else, Matt, that you wanted to ask?
Well, I'm just thinking for the future. I've heard it spoken before about, you know, future proofing, and that's a near impossibility. But if the future needs condition it so that we could probably put parking opposite, have a single drive aisle and parking on both sides, and it would just leave more area for expansion. And again, I don't feel strongly one way or another. I was just questioning it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll pick that up in a minute, but let's, go ahead, Dave Blatt.
So like I say, my big thing is I am questioning why we have so many doors still, especially since like 3/4 of those doors are in the middle of somebody's office. So, if I look at a door, those doors are going to have to be the fire rated. They're going to have card access. They're going to have all these things. And those are really expensive. And to me, it's a single floor. If it's a fire hazard, you have a window that opens, type of thing. So that's my thing. I'm trying to understand the reasoning why people want, what they told Tom that to make them want to keep all those doors.
Should I respond at this time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we were talking to a couple of the users, and they felt that if the doors are there, then in case there's a fire at the entries of the department, they have a second way out. Now, looking from the building code standpoint, none of the office areas require a second means because of the number of occupancy. So from the building code standpoint, it is not required. And a second thought that came actually more to me is the fact that after we look at the architectural assessment reports, that those doors were in reasonable conditions that they could save. So I was thinking that if we change the hardware only but keep the doors, is essentially nobody can get in. It can only be opened out. That might save some money instead of replacing it with a fixed panel. So there was a user issue and also a cost consideration.
All right. Tom, I appreciate that. I didn't mean to cut you, but I appreciate that. If the fact is that if you think the doors could be saved, I agree that it doesn't make sense. And all we're going to do is, I assume you're going to say, put the emergency exit alarm type of things on there. So if somebody opened them, the alarm goes off and all that wonderful stuff. I have no problem. That I would have no problems with.
Yeah, and we will also make sure that people cannot just come in, so we'll remove the handles or whatever there is.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I just don't want it to be where people are opening those doors to say, oh, their office is hot, I want to open a door. That's the exact opposite of what we want and things like that. I want them to, those doors should only be opened in emergencies if you're going to have them.
Well, if that's the case, then they don't really need sidewalks connecting to the main perimeter sidewalk.
Agree.
Yeah, I think I do. I have a couple comments too, but I see Michael Ray's hand is raised. Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to contribute to what Mr. Blatt's saying and Mr. Allison's comment. I agree. I think that, having a private entrance is probably nice to have, but I think that it comes with a cost. And so if they are just going to be, exit only and emergency handles, then that resolves my concerns. But then I don't see the point in having all the sidewalks that have to then be maintained and shoveled and taken care of. On the maintenance side, this is a very maintenance heavy design. So I would be in favor of minimizing some of these additional entrances or exits.
What's the requirement though? If you're creating emergency egress with all those doors, you're going to have something maintainable on the outside. You can't just leave it with snow piled up against it. You're going to have something cleared there.
It'd have to be accessible.
If the building's on fire, I don't think snow is going to be a problem.
Yeah, but the code doesn't allow doors to be blocked.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
assuming.
It's an interesting question. You mean, Dave, you're saying if someone's trying to get out, we have one of those abnormal years and there's 2 feet of snow in the way that someone's trying to get out, And they
That
can't.
door's not going to open.
Yeah.
It
I don't
also
disagree with,
violate
it, you know,
ADA.
creating one walkway and maybe we just take the smaller ones
think-
that connect to the doors and come straight out to the walkway on the edge of the parking lot between, you know, run narrow walkways directly out to the parking lot sidewalk and eliminate the one that runs parallel to the building.
Yeah. I
Or just
I
have
agree.
small pads outside each door.
Yeah, you could do that too. I agree with the sentiment that I think I summarize my thoughts to say that I think having the parallel sidewalks parallel with the road is going to look funny, and it's probably not needed. You know, we should be able to find a way to consolidate those. So to me, if you're going to keep the doors, we should just extend this. We either just do exactly what Dave just said. If they really are just push open doors, emergency, we just do the minimum required pad that we need to keep shoveled so that people can get out and open the door. Or we run the sidewalk straight out to the new sidewalk that we're building along the edge of the parking, and we take out the, you know, the other strips that are parallel to the building. I just think that having two sets of sidewalks there is just going to look kind of funny.
So you'd like to see the trees come out.
Well, no,
No.
well, personally, I think that was my other question is, do we want to save the trees? Because to me, that's a lot of wasted space. Typically, you'd put the parking closer to the building. I get the fact that there's trees there. I would just hate to save the trees if they're on their last, if they're, you know, damaged or diseased, or they're just going to die or need to be taken down. And then everybody's going to wonder, why the heck do we put the parking so far away from the building? And to Matt Allison's point, you know, if you put it closer to the building, you could preserve space on the other side to actually build another bay of parking and expand the parking that you have. But you know, you could still do that here, but you're just wasting some space. That's just my view. I'm not anti-tree by any means. If they're beautiful trees and we're going to get another 15, 20, 30 years out of them, I'd say fine. And I know no one knows a crystal ball. We could have another ice storm. But I just hate if they're in tough shape already. I'm not an expert on that, so I don't know how we come up to that answer, but that was just my comment on that point. I also had another comment. One second. I had another comment on the other side of the building. You said you wanted to overlay the parking area that's adjacent. I guess it would be closest to the pack. The
Area 7.
Right.
Area 7. So that was just done as part of the middle high school project. Is that in tough shape already?
The civil engineers recommended that it be overlaid. I can have another discussion with them.
Okay.
It's definitely not in the same condition as the road itself. I walk that property, you know, 3 times a month, and
maybe we didn't overlay it. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes. I could be wrong. I could be remembering that incorrectly.
I'll ask your wife how often you're wrong, right?
I'll give you that answer.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. We may not have done that. I have a sort of a memory on that, but anyway, just those are my 2 comments. So I don't know where we land with it seems to me there's efficiencies to be done on the other side that we were talking about, to try to minimize infrastructure upfront capital costs, but also taking into consideration long-term O&M, snow clearing and having to fix sidewalks and things. Are you planning on new sidewalks being bituminous or concrete?
They're being shown as bituminous.
Okay.
Just a question, jump back to the west side so we can give the civil engineer some direction. So if we keep the doors, you still need an accessible, even though if they're emergency exit, if you have somebody in there on crutches or a wheelchair, they still need to get out. So you need a compliant walkway to get to whatever sidewalk will be out there. So should we tell them to take the trees out and slide the new green parking lot up closer to the building so that it's going to have a common new sidewalk to connect to the doorway exits?
I don't know. Do we have a tree warden in town?
The DPW.
Yes,
director.
DPW director.
The DPW director is the tree warden.
Yep.
If it's okay, if it's acceptable with the board, why don't I try to get some insight from him on this? That's a suggestion.
I second that. Yeah. If that's the
Alright.
right term.
I'll reach out to Mr. Oliver and see what he thinks on that.
The only other question I had was, is that sidewalk in the new, along the edge of the new parking lot required? I'm guessing it probably is, but does there have to be a sidewalk there?
That's a good question.
You've got a connection to the existing sidewalk off the parking lot. You could even add one more maybe. But only
mean,
just have a berm of, that the cars pull up to.
Ed, doesn't look like you're planning on any handicap spaces there.
I don't see them labeled there.
Although I do see something, a rectangle that might be a barrier free, or it could just be a parking space
I think
dimension.
it's just a parking space.
That's just the parking space dimension, the 19 feet.
So I mean, if there's no handicap spaces over there and you're not using it as an accessible route from a handicap space, I don't know that you would need sidewalk technically. I mean, customarily you do provide it. It's kind of nice to have, folks being able to not have to walk across the grass to get to
Yeah, I
the
think
building.
provide a courtesy walkway, so when you get out of your car, you could walk across the head end parking and then take the little green path over to the purple overlay to work your way to one of the building entrances.
Yeah, it's a little different in the situation, like if you were to pan up, Tom, to show the parking on the northerly side there. It's a little different when you have that situation where the parking is on the opposite side of the building,
Mhm.
because people will walk naturally towards the building. So they're not going to naturally be walking towards the sidewalk anyway. So customarily, I think that's probably why they didn't show a sidewalk along that portion, because no one's going to naturally walk that way anyway. But when you have parking up against the building, I mean, typically it's included. So I guess I'm in favor of having it up adjacent. I just think that we need to, it just seems like then we'd want to eliminate the existing sidewalk.
Mhm.
Longitudinally. We might need connections to the doors, but we'd want to eliminate the.
I get the feel that Ed really needs some direction on that. Otherwise, we're going to delay the final layout of this. I mean, can we work this out amongst us tonight? I honestly, if the committee agrees that we should take the trees out and move the parking lot closer, I'll get on board with that. My preference would be to eliminate the existing sidewalk parallel to the building and just extend the narrower walkways or whatever's required for ADA evacuation through those doors to be able to get to the parking lot.
I think
Okay.
if we're gonna,
Go ahead.
I think if we're going to keep the doors in the offices, then it makes more sense, in my opinion, it makes more sense to just bring the walkway right up to the building and then push the parking right up to it. So that way you have the doors and then there's a sidewalk right there and then the parking lot. And that saves us some maintenance area. And then, as Matt Allison mentioned, provides some expansion potential down the line.
I tend to agree with that. And I think it also might save a little cost, because if you slide that closer to the building by 10 feet, you're going to be out of that slope that you can see where the road takes a 90-degree turn. around the
Right,
building.
right.
You'll
Yep.
minimize, you're still gonna probably need a wall, but it might be smaller. I tend to be on board with that. Again, if these were trees in the prime of their life, I might have a different opinion, but I just, I don't know. I'm not sure, and I think we could plant some new ones so we could replace them for not a huge dollar amount.
And do you
Um,
foresee if we shift that towards the building, does it change the position of the entrance to that road off of the main road in the front? Or do you just curve it a little bit, angle it a little bit more to accommodate the? I don't know if you
I-
understand what I'm saying.
That's a
Yeah,
good
if
question.
if the entry would slide closer to the building, we can talk to the civil engineer. I think with the layout of the roads out front, they were trying to position that driveway to address other circulation that's going around the island out front. But I can ask them about that if they'd feel they'd have to, if they can slide that driveway maybe closer to the building.
Mm.
Mr. Chair, if you're interested in a motion, I'm willing to make one to
I
push
am,
that
but
parking lot in.
let's take, let me take Brian first. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks. I would also agree. I would also agree with what Mr. Roy had stated too about adding more trees too. If we're going to eliminate trees, we want to make sure we're adding them back, if not more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Okay, I will accept the motion if someone cares to make one.
Okay, I move that we instruct the engineers to move the parking lot, remove the trees and move the parking lot up to the existing walkway and any other changes that they see are necessary to accomplish that.
Okay. Is
With
there a
the,
second?
if I may add one more thing, with the intent of planting new trees, possibly on the outside of that. No, I won't say where, just planting new trees to replace those.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who was that? Okay,
Right.
okay. All right, I will take, is there any discussion?
Sorry, quick discussion. The other side of it is this sidewalk on the other side of the building. So administrative side, what would be the administrative building? We talked about the side, we have all these doors in the sidewalk here. Can we pull that sidewalk against the building? If we're going to have it where they're going to have doors there, why don't we just make it right against the building? And that way you eliminating all this little extra doodads and the higher maintenance. So I'd look at all of the sidewalk to be a walkway right against the building, as it is in the north section, area 8, as we have the sidewalk on area 8 right against the building.
That turns into a reconstruction though, rather than just an overlay. I
thought
think there's a
I
cost
thought-
associated with that.
I thought they were going to make it, not concrete anyhow. So they were ripping it up anyhow.
Well, I
It's
think it
just
is
an
the-
overlay. What,
Purple's an
what's-
overlay over the existing.
All right,
It's
that's
like
fine. If
It's
it's
like an
that,
inch and a half.
if it's a cost prohibitive, that's fine. I'm just trying to keep maintenance down. I still don't understand the reason for all that sidewalk and all those doors, but I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
All right, well, we're certainly not censoring you, Dave, so.
I
All right.
felt that was the way to say it politically.
Okay. Anybody, any other discussion?
So the
Oh.
motion
Oh.
didn't include putting the sidewalk against the building. That was the
No,
intent?
my
Didn't-
motion was to leave it where it is. Just move the
Oh.
parking lot up to it.
Right, correct.
Okay.
So, well, not against the building, but just to be clear, Dave, Passios,
Yep,
basically we'd be keeping the sidewalk in the existing location and taking out the trees and moving the parking up against that location, correct?
right, which would
That's the
eliminate the
motion.
requirement for a new walk
A new
to
walkway.
be
right,
constructed on the edge of the parking
Oh.
lot.
Oh, okay.
Move the green
Clear
up
enough.
to the purple.
Okay, gotcha. Move the green to the purple. Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. With that, I will take a roll call vote. Brian Leighton,
Yes.
Michael Ray,
I want to ask another question. I'm sorry.
okay, go ahead.
So just so I'm clear, Mr. Passios, your motion is saying keeping these kind of side entrance, keeping the individual walkways that lead up to the main sidewalk. Is that correct? And then and as Mr. Roy just mentioned, all that you're motioning is to move the green to the purple, but you're not changing any of the purple. Is that fair?
Yes, that's correct. And if you're concerned about the connection from the door to the existing sidewalk, that's going to be required anyway if we've got emergency egress.
Okay. I'm a no.
Okay. Dave Passios,
Yes.
Matthew Allison,
Sure, yes, sorry.
David Blatt.
Yes.
Okay, yes for me. So we're 5-1. Okay, does that give you what you need, Ed?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question though, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Michael Ray, was there a reason, is the reasoning more based on the fact of all the egresses and those walkways?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I didn't think, yeah, I agree with you, but I didn't think that was what we were, that was part of our discussion there. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing.
No, I think it would just be more effective. I mean, on the north side of the building, we're not really going to see that, but on the south side of the building, this is the visible part of the building.
Yes.
From the roadway. And to me, it's a lot of sidewalks that go to nowhere, that are never going to really be used. And to me, it would just be cleaner to, even though we keep everything else the same, to just change this portion of the building and just eliminate those individual walkways, push the whole sidewalk up to the building, and then push the parking lot up to the sidewalk.
What that does though, Michael, is it brings all of your pedestrian traffic, which is coming from this parking lot, right outside the windows of all those offices along that entire wing. That's one of my problems with moving the sidewalk up against the building.
I mean, we could probably even, we've already motioned and approved. I don't want to belabor the point because I don't feel very strongly about this. It's just my initial kind of reaction to it is, I think it just may look better. It's more aesthetic than anything.
And I'm sorry, my whole thing, there's just the question is, are we sure because of ADA that we would need those sidewalks? That's the biggest question I have. Is there something else we could do that would eliminate those sidewalks? Not the sidewalks, but the dinky ramps.
Take the doors out.
Well, even if you had the doors, could I do something else there? Could I have some kind of material in there that would look better than, or not make it look like a walkway on each one? I don't want to make it so that anybody thinks that they can go into the building that way. That's the whole thing I'm trying to get away from.
Why don't we talk to the civil engineer and as Greg said a few minutes earlier, we might be able to do a pad instead of making a pathway.
Perfect.
And
All right, let
also-
us know. We could always do a email vote or something like that if you needed us.
All right, well, so Tom, why don't you circle back with the civil engineer and then
Yep.
get in touch with me and we'll see if there's something we need to do.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on. Ed, I don't know if you still had more to go or if we,
Yeah, I just had just
okay,
another quick, just to update the committee. We have started the construction cost estimate. The different design disciplines have been providing drawings and sketches and design narratives to our cost estimator. Tom and I actually had a couple of specialty meetings today with our design team and the cost estimator on the building envelope and the HVAC. So we're working hard on that cost estimate, pulling all the pieces together. It's a work in progress right now. One of the questions I do have that plays into the cost estimate, we're also doing the soft cost side of it in addition to the hard cost side. So you have the full picture. And one of the questions pertains to escalation. We typically, you do the cost estimating based on today's dollars, but you escalate that price to midpoint of construction. So we were wondering if the committee has a general idea on what you think, I guess the start of the design is knowing you're going to town meeting in spring, assuming it gets approved. When do you think the design phase would start? And then from there, we can build a design schedule and a construction schedule to figure out that midpoint of construction date, because we've got to add that escalation cost to the construction cost to give you a good number.
Yeah. Well, assuming favorable vote in May, right? April, May.
May 1st.
Thank you, sorry. I mean, and I guess assuming that the select board would, or whoever, I think it's the select board, would instruct this committee to continue and oversee that process. I would think it would continue. I would think well, I don't know. I guess we also have the town manager here as well. It could be a procurement issue. I don't know. I guess I would think it would be pretty quick after receiving authorization from town meeting, but I guess I'm backing off on that a little bit. I'm not sure. Is
Greg, assuming that we're going to need to go through the election process, the ballot process also, there's another
That's
2
true.
weeks.
Yeah,
And
that's
then the
true.
funding, that funding is available after July 1, no earlier.
Right, good point. And then, but would we have to, I don't want to be sensitive here, but I think we'd have to rebid this, correct? Technically, or no? Heather, do you have any input on that?
Can you ask the entire question again? Like, so
So
if
if
it was
the
approved
ta-
at town meeting?
There's approve the town meeting to build the project, that cost would include bid document preparation, soft costs.
Yes.
How does that work?
As far as putting it out to bid
Do we have to put that out to bid again, or how does that,
for the,
for the design
preparation?
services for the bid, for the bid docs?
no, I think we could do a continuation
Okay,
of the current contract.
yeah, okay. So, I mean, obviously that's ideal because we got to confirm here. I'm not trying to be, but I just wasn't sure what so assuming that was the case, I would think we'd be starting pretty fast, as soon as we could kind of negotiate a contract.
July of this year, like, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, if you said like August, we'd be starting design,
As a start, that's fine. That's fine.
or does everybody think that? I don't
That
see any
works for
no's.
me.
Okay.
And,
I mean,
and you
that's
know,
the
that
best
makes
guess
some,
at the
that makes some huge assumptions at this point, but that's,
Right,
we need to give them a
right.
date.
Right.
That makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get into like a 6-month window for midpoint of construction to get you the best pricing we can with the escalation.
Okay, no, it's good. Thanks, Tom. Ed, excuse me.
So-
And just to be clear, my comments there were not a no vote to your firm. I wasn't sure what the process of procurement was, so please don't take it the wrong way.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. The other thing I'll just mention real quickly, the team, we're also working on our final report for the project, the consolidated report. Tom's architectural group is still working on the DD drawings and such, which he'll go over this evening, the status on that. But we're also working on that final consolidated report, pulling in the existing conditions assessment, the study, the report, all the hazmat reports, all the narratives that we're doing for all the new work. So we're actively working on that consolidated document as well. So that's my update. I just wanted to present to the committee tonight. And I do have to drop off at 6:30. I have another conference call, video call this evening.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions for Ed? before he leaves in 8 minutes. Tom?
I do. Back regarding the escalation. So based on a redesign start, not redesign, design start of August 1st, will it be reasonable to say that the midpoint of construction is somewhere mid-year 2022 for calculation purposes?
I think this construction is going to say be 12 months all in to the construction duration. So we've got to,
Let's say 4 months to do the bid documents.
the design, yeah.
Right.
And then bidding, the actual bidding will be 6 weeks. You'll have 4 weeks to file sub bids, then 2 weeks to open the GC bids. And then maybe there's a month for the town to negotiate the contract with the contractor. So there's some time in there we got to build. So I think we can figure that out, Tom.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Ed before he leaves the call? Okay,
Great.
thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, Tom, I'll hand it over to you.
Boy, this is the first time I'm going solo. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about this.
Good night, Ed.
So I just want to quickly go over the status of some of the user group meetings, and then there's a list of items I'd like to discuss with the committee, which does include the loading dock issue. So since our last meeting, we've met with the school again because we didn't talk about the extended day area. We eventually met with the town clerk. We're still trying to get hold of the assessor, so we haven't had any feedback from them. And then Steve and Joe have been very kind and gave us several rounds of feedback. So I'll just quickly go over some of the changes, very minor changes with the last few groups. So from the school standpoint, what the fine tuning is, last time we show a couple of offices in the ACE area, but because they are more general purpose offices, it would be better from the school standpoint to move the directors and the nurses office closer to the door where the students are coming in. For the ACE program, they also want to add some sort of a kitchen with a stove. So we need to make sure we talk to our engineer about that. We want to define this kitchen washer dry area, so we're just going to change the floor coloring to make it look a little different. The other two changes is really to swap the location of the extended day with Community Link. Community Link and early learning used to be on this side, but they felt it's better to be on the other side. So cost-wise, it's not going to make any difference. Regarding the PAX area, Steve felt that it's not necessary to have another interview studio, so we're making the master studio bigger. We are creating a server room here that used to be another function. One of the things that Steve brought up was the PAX area would be opened after hours. So he wants to make sure that there's security, that people coming from the PAX suite, when they have to go to the bathroom, they won't have access to the conference rooms or to the other parts of the building. So that's why we put in after hours limited access. An other issue that was brought up was, which Steve mentioned earlier, is there are some very expensive equipment that needs to be stored or transferred into the building. So there's the whole discussion of the loading dock. So I wonder if this is an appropriate time to bring up the loading dock issue.
Yeah, thanks. I think it is, but actually what I'd like to do at the moment, if you wouldn't mind, Tom, Michael Ray has to hop off the call here as well at 6:30. And he has a question that I'd like to allow him to ask before he leaves. Is that okay, Tom?
Sure, yeah.
Sorry to do that. Michael Ray, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Yeah, looking over these plans, first of all, I think that a lot of work has been done. So really thank you guys for all the hard work that's been put into this. My only question is about staff bathrooms. So certainly I know I mentioned previously, I think it's really important for staff to have a dedicated bathroom, but I don't know if it's necessary to have a dedicated male and female bathroom of this size, given the amount of staff that are in the building. So I would be in favor of converting one of these bathrooms to leaving one as a staff bathroom and then converting the other one to another public female bathroom. That generally females take longer in the bathroom than males do. So, you know, it may be necessary to have a second bathroom for females public. And then, you know, staff, a lot of our staff are females. It gives them an option to use that public bathroom or to use the staff bathroom. But, you know, I certainly don't have a problem with unisex staff bathrooms. I think we're all grown-ups. And the days of, like, you know, segregating males and females, given all the new sexual stuff that people have, it's hard to be straight line about that kind of stuff. So that would be my preference, is one unisex staff bathroom and one additional public female bathroom.
So,
but I know that that's something that the other members probably want to discuss, and I do have to unfortunately jump off.
Thanks, Michael Ray. Thanks for dropping that and just.
Mr. Chair, that was actually one of my concerns too, because if you close off that corridor, there is no public bathrooms left. If that corridor is closed, there's no public bathrooms if you're using the multi-purpose room left.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So I'd rather see that the family toilet gets moved to one of the ADA toilets, and the ADA toilets being next to each other could be staff bathrooms as well.
All right, thank you guys, and I'll be at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay,
Is that a promise?
Good night, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
he's going to miss my dissertation on toilets. I mean, I love talking about toilets.
Yes, we know that, buddy. Yeah.
Good way to start the year.
Yeah. So
I mean, we can talk about that now. We can table it until Tom gets through with the rest of his presentation. Whatever.
Oh no, this is important stuff. So we might as well.
All right, that's fine.
So the building or the plumbing code does not segregate public toilets or staff toilets. So the way that we located the toilets is really, we need a certain number of male toilets and female toilets. So from the plumbing code standpoint, we have the number of toilets. So the next question is, how do we separate it? I mean, we put down staff and knowing that there's probably more toilets than is required, and there we are doing almost a 50-50 mix between male and female. I guess what.
So Tom, like I say, my biggest thing is that I don't want to, you have PAC, you have all these things down that corridor there. So if I'm having an event at the multi-purpose room, or if somebody's using the gym, do they want them going down that corridor, or would I rather them going to the staff toilets? But if they're labeled staff toilets, it's kind of saying you can't use this if you're public. So that's why I'd like to see it, and this is just my opinion, that you take the right ADA toilet and the family toilet and switch those. So this way I would the family toilet is still a family or handicap toilet. And then you have two toilets there that could be ADA or staff toilets if they really didn't want to go to the main toilet. Because I can't see the staff needing, the staff right now has one toilet for the whole building, pretty much. Well, I should say 2 toilets, one in each building.
So what if that's an easy change between family and ADA? So what if we say the 2 ADA toilets are staff toilets, and we just say this is public? So during the day, the staff will probably use the 2 toilets in this area.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And if they're occupied, they can risk going in and being with the public. If it's occupied.
Which hopefully there won't be too much.
Yeah, during the day, to your point, Dave, during the day, that's probably pretty low risk, right?
Exactly. So that was the thing, is I'm trying to make this so that the building could be secure at night when there's different event, depending on the events that are going on.
Yeah. Anybody else have any comment one way or the other on that?
Tom, based on the way the petitions are set up, are those 2 toilets farthest in that room accessible toilets? Is that why that petition spacing is different?
Yeah, so all these group toilets are accessible.
Okay,
We were just trying to add some more individual unisex toilets, that's all. Because actually we didn't have enough, our counts didn't quite work. So that's one of the reasons why we added some, and then there was a request for a family toilet.
So could you, even if they're labeled ADA, I don't know if you have to label it ADA, but if the 2 toilets are sitting there and then you have the family toilet there, that one, I guess would that solve it, or does it have to be labeled ADA?
Oh, it's more general information.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Yep.
And I think there would be, when it's time to put a sign for this room, there'll be a wheelchair or something, because it is accessible. All the toilets are accessible.
Right. Okay.
Okay, Matthew.
Yes, excuse me. I know I've missed a few meetings and I've fallen a little behind, but I don't understand why you have to have, first of all, I don't see why you have to have 2 separate ADA toilets, and I don't understand why you can't have an ADA toilet in the men's room and the women's room. And the third thing is, why are we labeling these bathroom facilities? Why isn't it just men and women? I don't understand why you have to separate staff from public.
It is not required, and we could do that. It was like probably a remnant of some diagrams from several months ago. And we were short on toilet count, so that's why we created those unisex toilets based on the occupant calculation.
So Matthew, to answer your question, I think the staff toilet, if I remember correctly, the staff toilet was something asked for by the some of the folks that work in the administration buildings. So they asked that there be a toilet, that they have a facility that's separate from the public facility.
Okay, so they're gonna go from 1 toilet to 12 toilets.
So that's why I'm saying, that's why my suggestion of flipping the 2 toilets and giving them, okay, you have 2 toilets for staff, and that's it, you're done,
I guess, well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So the follow-up to that comment was that I don't think, what about if there's a big function in the evening in the cafeteria? Is there going to be any place for those people to use the bathroom?
So it would be, if it's labeled staff, possibly they would have to go down the hall and you'd have to have that hallway open. If it's not labeled staff, they can go right there.
Well, in all honesty, I don't care what the label says. If I gotta go, I'm gonna use it, but
That's right. That's right, exactly.
That's,
right, yeah.
well, I think
Plus
Yeah, everybody on this call is going to feel the same way, but right?
So I guess my biggest point here is that there's a big function facility at the end of the corridor. And well, I guess it doesn't make a whole lot of difference how far you have to walk, but it doesn't seem like you're going to need to draw somebody a map to get there from the cafeteria.
Yeah,
Right,
think-
I think I would rather support that the two smaller bathrooms be labeled staff bathrooms and that large
Yeah.
bathroom that's labeled staff now, just make it a public bathroom. Just label it men, lady, gentlemen and ladies, however you're gonna label them. The same as the set in the central hallway or the hallway headed back towards PAC. Both of those
Yeah,
areas be labeled the same.
Yeah, to address Matthew's last point about location. I think that's where they are now. So I think
Yeah.
they're trying to just not reinvent the wheel with the plumbing. Do you have any comment on that, Tom? Is that?
that's exactly it. We want to
well-
reuse, even though all the fixtures would be new, but we want to keep.
Yeah, but is it, do you have any insight as to, I mean, obviously if we're building a new building, it might be different, but in terms of length of travel, how does that, having to walk from the big meeting room where, in the cafeteria, meeting room 1, out the door, down the hall, how does that compare how does that length compare in the realm of projects you've worked on, say? Like, is this a long distance?
Let me
Or is
just double check the scale and see how far it is. I'm just checking the scale so I can measure properly. Oh, as indicated, that's not helping me. 16th inch. Okay, so the distance between meeting room 1 and here is 112 feet, which is not unreasonable. I believe the plumbing code is talking about 300 feet. This is crazy, but if I have to go, I'll go the other way.
All right, so we're in the realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's less than Fenway Park, but not quite as much as a Sullivan Stadium, huh?
So I guess to clarify my question is I'm not so concerned about the distance. But if those are staff and they're not usable for public and the PAC hallway, are those double doors going to be locked in the evening?
The idea, Matthew, is that would be an option. So
Okay.
if they felt it was a function, like, if it was just, say, maybe kids, you might want to have them closed so that they don't go down to the hallway, try to go down the hallway. But,
Yeah.
you could always have them open if you wanted.
I think we're all saying the same thing. I think we want to take those two bathrooms that are currently labeled staff bathrooms, not label them staff bathrooms, just label them bathrooms. And then if we're going to label anything staff bathrooms, it would be the two single bathrooms that are just inside the doors going to the administrative wing.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
I think we're all saying the same thing. That's what you're saying, right, Dave?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And I would question whether you'd have to label even those as staff bathrooms. If you have those doors right there, you can block that off and people could still use them if they need to. They shouldn't be there.
And I mean, we're probably splitting hairs here, fellas. I mean, if we, if a year from now, they want to label it something different, that's not a very expensive change.
True.
I don't know. We
I
might.
will make the change for you for free. How's that next year?
All right.
Well, all I'm saying is you're talking about a little sign right on the door.
Hey,
It's not that big a deal.
it might have to go to town vote for all we know, but that's okay.
Well, I don't know about that, but Anyway, I think we're on the, I think we're on the. we're
Yeah,
on the
but
same page.
seriously, for the current assignments of getting the cost, it's not going to make a difference. I mean,
Thank-
we're counting
yeah.
the number of fixtures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's got the very good valid points from both Dave and Matt. Thanks.
Hey, it was all Michael Ray who started the ball rolling. So, you know, give him
Good
credit.
point. Good
Yeah.
point. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave Michael Ray
Yeah,
out.
no problem.
Okay,
Okay.
so should we go back to PAX?
Yeah, sure.
So the next question then is about the loading dock.
Yeah, I have lots of questions on this. Is Steve is still on the call. Have you, maybe I'm getting, I don't want, I cut you off, Tom. I'm sorry.
Oh, so I mean, it's a general discussion with the committee.
Okay.
Is
What?
there a need for a loading dock?
Yeah, my biggest question, yeah, see, I don't know. My biggest question is what are we going to, what do we expect to have delivered and to what frequency such that we'd require a loading dock? And I guess I'm happy to invite Steve to give us a little bit more commentary on that if Mr. Walker, if he has something to add. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, appreciate that. PAC doesn't need a dedicated loading dock. The concern was when we started talking about two things. One was first moving into the building, building out all the equipment that PAC needs, especially lighting frameworks and a whole bunch of things like that. But then we realized that in the normal operation of the building, you are likely to need somewhere where you can have deliveries. You have a cafeteria in there. You have public space that may need these things delivered. And the last thing we want is that somebody kindly gives us a loading dock, and then one day they say, you know, we have 3 truckloads of stuff coming in for a special event. We need to wheel it all through your studio. So the thought was to raise it with this committee and abide by whatever you think makes the most sense. If there isn't a loading dock, then at the time of the major move, when everybody comes in, we'll be using all the corridors, we'll be using all the doors. When I say we, I mean all the occupants of the building. It's going to be chaos for a while. And as you just referenced, I don't know what the regular traffic would need to be through a loading dock. So we're just raising it.
Yeah, all right. I appreciate that, Steve. In my view, I think that loading docks are expensive. I'll just preface with that. I mean, I've designed some, there's a whole host of logistical issues, particularly on this building, where I can't envision a spot where we would have the grading that would really allow for a nice, smooth transition where we wouldn't have to create like a ramp. And then you have all kinds of drainage issues and issues moving snow. And if we're doing it for a pretty infrequent thing, it seems to me that it might, it might not be warranted in this situation. But I mean, we have it for the school, for the high school, we have a loading dock because, they're getting food deliveries, trash removal, all that stuff. But I'm not sure with the frequencies that we're thinking about doing food service and that kind of thing here that we'd rise to that level, but I'm certainly open to her comments. So with that, I'll open it up. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Mr. Roy, that we're not going to have that regular delivery. So I don't think it makes sense to add that at this time.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, Greg, my recollection over the years, and I'm thinking back many, many, many years, was that that entrance near the boiler room that says public and student entrance, that was used quite often if there was something that you didn't want to drop down to street level and then needed to get it into the building. You backed the truck up to that set of stairs and you laid out I'm going to get the wrong terminology, but a ramp to the landing at those
Yeah.
doors, and you rolled it in that way. You know,
Yeah.
and that isn't something you want to have to do on a regular basis, but for moving into the building and, you know, special purposes of receiving, that was the way things were brought into the building.
Yeah, that's about the only place I can think of where the grade would probably work. That's 349, 3. That's even, believe it or not, that's even for a full-size loading dock, that's not even enough
Right.
grade change. But that's a good history though, Dave. I appreciate it. Dave Blatt, did you have?
Yeah, so what about the thought of that same spot, instead of having stairs there, making that a ramp, a handicap accessible ramp? So this way, if you want to move things in, you have a ramp to move things in. However, as well as we now make it as part of the handicap accessible for people visiting the building. So if we look at the meeting rooms being there, we look at most of the public spaces would be through that building, that door. And if we did a ramp, because you have all that room as you get towards the electrical room, yeah, you have 36 feet. Could we do that? And that would be used as a loading area then?
Greg, is that enough to get the picture that's required?
So I was just gonna do the rough math.
Yeah.
3, I mean, I don't want to do people's jobs for them, but, so don't take this the wrong way, but this is really quick. You need for a ramp, it's 1 on 12. So you need 12 horizontal feet for every vertical foot. So,
let's see,
you're
1,
talking
2,
about,
3.
32 feet, but then you need landing. So you're talking about 32 and a half feet of ramp. And then for every, you can't just go straight down. You have to ramp, landing, ramp. And I can't remember what the.
Understand.
Oh,
So it was just a thought that, you know, it
Yeah,
might be
no,
a way
it's a
of,
good thought. Yeah.
because, you know, right, you're incorporating two things in once, and we have more room than the 36 feet because,
Yeah.
you know, you have the road there. Yeah, you have a while till you get to the pavement.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably have another 10 feet before the pavement.
Yeah.
At that point. So it's just a thought, as if you can do it there, and maybe it solves an issue of handicap accessibility in that area as well for the building.
Okay. Not to cut you off, but I'll call on Matthew. Go ahead.
Yeah, if we could pan up to the southerly face between the kitchen and the cafeteria. There's 2 egresses there, and it's not like this is a warehouse that's not going to be being used every day. I don't know if it has to meet like certain standards. It probably does, but this is a multi-function municipal building, and it would be nice to have the ability to use it. And if it could go there, those 2 landings could be modified and combined and accessed when it needed to be. I don't know, do we need a dedicated ramp? I mean, like a vehicle ramp? I don't know what the requirements are, honestly, but that seems like it would be an ideal spot, because the majority of the things that need to be pushed in and out, well, the gymnasium and the cafeteria, but there's double door access throughout the building from that area. Just my 2
Yeah.
cents.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to have I mean, I don't know, you could, so you're saying doing something like what Dave just suggested in that location? Matt, like doing a ramp in there to try to get it.
Well, I guess
work.
so, but I mean, if that was, if those 2 concrete pads, and I'm going by memory, I believe they're raised pads with stairways. They're raised
Yep,
up to
you're right.
the egress. If you combine those and made one landing and 1 set of stairs, then you could have an area that you could back up to with the truck. And forgive my farm attitude, but I don't see that it needs to be all that fancy. It's not a warehouse. It'll be used a few times a year, maybe.
I kind of agree with that. Yeah. I don't know if yeah, we have to see, because you you might have to, we might have to put a flush curb on the sidewalk there, Matt, so that you could get a truck up and over because I think there's a sidewalk adjacent to the
Oh, yes, you're
pavement
right.
there.
You're right.
But you might have to do that anyway, because if you got a landing coming out there, you probably want it dumped down for handicapped accessibility onto the pavement anyway. So if that's the case, maybe you could make that wider so you could back up small box truck. You're not gonna get a tractor trailer there, but you could get a small
Right.
box truck, for delivery of a piece of equipment that might not come on a huge truck. So now it's an idea. It's a good idea.
No,
Nothing formal, but to Matt's point, so it just to kind of give us options and maybe to make it a little bit more usable as well.
Yeah, so I was just looking at the back at the site plan, look at the grade change. So it looks like the finished elevation, the threshold is 549.5. So the curb area is about 547.2. So that's about 2.5 feet of rise. So that would be about 24 plus 6. So it's about 30 feet of run plus the landing. So we would need about 36 feet of structure, 36 to 40 feet of structure to put it in front of in this area. I mean, we can take a quick look to see what it looks like, will a 4-foot wide ramp be wide enough for if you're talking about carts? So we probably need like 5 or 6 feet wide if that's what we need to accommodate.
Yeah.
The other
I
thing,
think
if you do that, then you're going to be changing the door on the corner of the meeting room 1. And yeah, I don't think the expense is worth it.
You're talking about a ramp that would, just so everybody understands, it would not come straight out from the door. Likely, it would have to be like a switchback. You'd probably have the landing, and then you'd go you'd go parallel to the side. You'd ramp down. You'd have another landing, and then you'd ramp down. You'd kind of switch back to get that ramp to work because of the amount of length that you need. So, if you needed it there due to code, you'd probably do it. But truthfully, it's probably not going to be that convenient to use that kind of a ramp for delivery.
No. And plus,
probably,
it's in the front of the building.
Yeah, and it's in the front of the building. But even if we're talking about doing that finding a way to do that on the other side where the first side the first entrance that we were talking about, I just think that the movers are going to probably, if it were me, I'd be like, you know what? Why don't we just drive the truck around the front, drop it right on the sidewalk, and roll it into the front door? That's probably what they're going to do. I don't know. I'm not a mover, but
And I'm going to guess that 80% of businesses today don't have loading ramps, and they just require lift gate deliveries.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
That's yeah. And I mean, that's why I wanted to understand from Steve, and Steve, I do appreciate you commenting. If it was a situation where it was going to be more frequent or something, that it might make sense, but it just doesn't seem to me that it's going to rise to that level.
I agree with that sentiment.
I'm fine with whatever you come up with.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Anybody else have any opinions alternate to that, or?
No, Mr. Chair, I would like to know if we could look at the idea of those stairs, the public stairs. I know we don't have a height right now or have anything, but the possibility of having that into a ramp.
Yeah,
because
could you, Tom, could you have them do a quickie sketch? It doesn't have to be
Like
design
here?
level, but just, yeah, which one are you talking about?
that's correct. That's right
That one,
there.
okay.
Because,
okay.
like I said, we need to have some kind of handicap ramp. And do I want it in the front? Do I want to make it, something ridiculous in the front? Or would
Yeah.
I rather have it where I can have handicap parking over here and people go in right, if they needed it and wheelchair access, it would be all through here.
Yeah, well,
I guess-
I mean, let's just see what the sketch looks like and,
Yeah, I agree. I'm
Make
just
a call.
saying, I'm just looking at options because of the front, you
Yeah.
know, if you,
yeah, probably makes sense.
because in the front, there's still gonna have to be a handicap, you know, I'm trying to avoid a huge handicap ramp in the front.
Yeah,
Excuse me, but I thought, are we talking about handicap ramp or are we talking about loading dock?
I was
Well,
trying to do it a little, I was trying to do it as both. I was trying to have it as a ramp that you could use to load from. You know,
Okay.
you could,
Multi-purpose
load-
ramp.
right.
Okay.
So
well,
if you
you could,
came,
you could kill two birds with one stone. You could have a handicap ramp that meets ADA, but you could also use it to wheel up a piece of equipment or something into the
Are we
different part of the
losing-
building.
Are we losing the existing handicap, or the ramp in the front?
That would be
No,
my question too.
no.
no,
That
we're
would-
not
that
losing
would be
it. It's
good.
just a matter of, you know, if it's works and everything else like that, just, you know, as a second entrance for things.
I would hate to add an extra ramp for additional cost if we already have a ramp that people are going to access, and that's going to be that main entrance that people are using.
Right,
Yeah.
Brian, I'm with you. I'm not adding, the last thing I want to do is add cost to this. So,
Yeah,
Um,
you know, me too. But having said that, I'm wondering, Tom, are we certain that we don't need a ramp at one of those entrances?
Because by code, there's another way to come through, which is the front entrance.
Okay.
And-
So you don't have to have an accessible, like, well, I mean, I don't know. I just, it's just
I'll
a
double
question.
check, but I think that there's already an accessible path, which is through the front door.
Okay,
I think to Matt's point too, is that once you convert this to a ramp, you're still bringing the delivery down to street level. And then you're rolling it up a ramp to
Yeah.
get it into the building.
right. So it just, yeah.
all right.
So we can
Ixnay.
do a study. That's pretty straightforward.
And I'm okay with Ixnay on the ramp A and just going with the handicap ramp and the lift gate if you need it over the stairs. You know, that's
Yeah.
fine.
All right. Well, let's see a sketch. I think it's worthwhile to see what it might look like.
Yeah, we'll send it before the next meeting. So that,
All right.
and I will also double check it to see if there is another, from the ADA standpoint, if another ramp is needed. So it looks like, again, looking at the site plan, there's about a 3-foot drop. So that's 36 feet plus landing. So plus 5, so it's about 46 feet structure. So
Yeah.
either we go straight or we can do
Yeah, if you kept the stairs and you just did another ramp and then, you know. whatever.
right. Yeah.
Anyways, all right.
Great.
Be interested to see what you come up with. All right.
So there's another PAC related issue, and there parking is needed for one of the new trucks where all the equipment is being stored. So we had a discussion about security for that truck parking in this facility. I believe the garage is currently used by the facilities departments, and so I don't know if the committee has any idea or comments regarding security of a van being parked in this area around the building in one of the. We definitely can assign a parking spot for PACs, but I think Steve is concerned about the middle of the night somebody might break in and steal the equipment.
Where is that van parked presently? Maybe we don't want to say, never mind.
We don't have the van yet. It would be a mobile unit. Permanently installed equipment would need to be both secure and be able to be plugged in to keep everything charged up that's in there. If that garage would allow us to have a space, believe me, we'd be truly grateful.
All right. So I would think let's investigate that because I think the facilities group should have, you know, that's what the public works and all that is for. So I think we need to just talk to Mr. Londa about that more than anything.
Thanks.
Mr. Londa's on the call.
Oh.
John, I'll give you the opportunity to speak to that if you'd like to, or not to if you would not like to.
Sure, I'll comment on it. So we were looking to retain that for school maintenance. Reason being is we have a garage that's over by the Turkey Hill Elementary School. We don't have any place where we can pull a vehicle in, like during a snowstorm to do work on the vehicle. That's the only heated garage space that we have available. So we were looking to try to retain it.
Is it a single car garage or is it how large a garage is it?
It's a single car garage, and then there's some workspace off to the side.
Okay.
But it has a single car garage type door.
No, but it couldn't, there's no way that two vehicles could fit in there at the same time.
No, I don't think so. Not
Okay.
without doing a major renovation to it.
And would you be adverse to the fact that if you needed to get in there, you'd have the ability to move the pack van and use it? Or not that I want you to lose the garage. I'd like you to be able to have the storage in there and have the equipment you want. But I would also, I'm also concerned that if PAC has a van with equipment in it, I'd like to have it in a secure facility.
Yeah. So I mean, so we're looking to retain it is what we are, because
Okay.
I said we do that for. I mean, it's not empty, just waiting for a vehicle to come in. We also have, maintenance parts and, various things that we need to maintain schools up in that area.
It's like a shop. It's like a shop. You
Correct.
got- Probably looks like my garage at home. I can't get a car in there if I tried. All my tools are in the way.
I remember that from the tour, that it looks like a garage, and I wouldn't want to have to add more cost to try to renovate it as well.
Yeah. It's tricky. Yeah, I mean, all right. Boy, I don't know. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not sure exactly what to say on that. It seems to me that there's a garage there. The facilities are saying they still need it. I guess, is there a timetable on the van, Steve?
It's budget dependent, so no, it's probably a couple of years out. Also, we were trying to take this as an opportunity that if you're doing all this work on the building, let's try and make sure we handle that problem as well. Other media centers actually store their vans well off site, and get in a car and go and get it when they need it. So if there isn't a ready solution now, one that we can easily implement, then leave it for the moment and we'll come back to it when we need.
Okay. Steve, I appreciate your accommodation. Thanks for, well, we're doing our best here, but I do appreciate it.
We're doing our best as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll move on. Go ahead, Tom.
Great, we finished item 1, so we should be done by 9 o'clock tonight. This is just no. So the other stuff is more and updates, and just need some directions from the committee. So I'm just looking at the list right now. So this is really regarding the budget. So we are still in the process of talking to the furniture needs of the different departments. We did ask them if they need new furniture, if they could bring what they have to the TCP, and we will have a list at the end of the day, or in order to come up with a cost. Second item is flooring. We did talk about using LVT, typical, and in the office areas, we will use VCT as an alternate to see how much savings we can have. Most of the people we talked to prefer the hard floor, but there were a couple of individuals would prefer carpet. So as a matter of policy, does the committee want to have a standardized finish, and people who really want to have carpet, they could bring their own carpet in? So that's a question. Do we want to standardize the finishes or have the different departments, if it's only 2 or 3 individuals, we let them use carpet?
I prefer to have standardized because those people might not be working in that department 4 years from now. And carpet is something you have to replace much more often than either
Yeah.
LVT or VCT.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Totally
makes
agree
life-
also.
Yeah, they can bring an area. They can go to. They can go get themselves an area rug if they need it on there.
Yeah, it's a matter of cost too. Like I mean, it's a replacement cost issue for sure.
Yeah.
But it's also like we got to clean it. It just
Yep.
seems to be better to have. This seems to me to be better to have the solid surface and have it uniform so that we don't have to, I don't know.
Mr. Chair, I apologize, but I need to run myself if I could.
Okay, I
was
think
about-
that's fine, Dave. You said that. So we still have a quorum. It's 4 of us. I
Excellent.
think
All
we're
right.
okay.
I was worried about that, but okay.
No,
So, guys,
we're okay.
look forward to seeing you again. Have fun.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks, Dave.
All right. Bye-bye.
Does anybody else have any? Go ahead, Brian.
No,
Did you
sorry.
have some? Oh, sorry.
No.
Anybody else? Matt, did you have anything to add on that?
Sure. Can somebody tell me again, LVT and VCT? I think it's vinyl and ceramic, but
So luxury vinyl, LVT is luxury vinyl tile, and it is more, it's softer when you walk on it, and it's also more durable. VCT, you in order to maintain it, you really need to wax it. LVT is a non-wax product, so you save money in the maintenance, and LVT lasts longer, but obviously is more expensive.
okay, so we're typically going with something more expensive but cheaper in the office areas, I guess, right?
Or we are going to, as the base, we're going to have the same, but we want to see if the budget is a problem, want to see how much savings we got in the office areas. So because the corridors is also higher traffic than the office areas.
That's true. Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, that's a good approach, Tom, I think. Sounds like the committee agrees.
Great. So the next question is, again, back to standardization. We talk about sliding windows at the transaction counters. We all agree that there should be, because of COVID, there should be some sort of a separation, some sort of a barrier. And we also talked about, well, maybe somebody can bring things into if they need some sort of a transaction with paperwork or something passing by, if there are big things like drawings that need to be brought in, they could open the door and get into the office area. But the town manager, they would really prefer to have a sliding window. Same for the conservation group. So, but what we were thinking is, if we might be able to do some sort of a, again, this is a diagram of a standard transaction area on the left-hand side of the screen. So we could somehow have sliding windows on one side and just a fixed panel on the other. But if there's no need by the department, then we'll just have a piece of plexiglass or something just to span over this area. But the bottom area is still open, so it still works like a bank teller transaction counter. So I think we may be able to accommodate the individual needs without really changing the design that much.
So to me, I know we talked about this last time, and I think I have a recollection that we said that we should probably just keep with the fixed windows, but I'm kind of thinking, how much do we think it's gonna cost to add the sliding pane? Is this a huge ticket item, or is this
I don't think so. I mean, it's obviously a little bit more expensive. It might be,
yeah.
I really shouldn't say.
Yeah,
maybe
no, I mean, but
bucks
yeah,
type.
but that's what I'm getting at. So it's not like to me, you'd probably want to have every station be the same, and you probably want to have every station have a slider, because we're not always going to be in COVID. And it just seems to me like, the natural tendency for most of these places would be to have that open. If we weren't in a COVID-19 situation, because it's more inviting. You know, if you walk in there and you look like you're talking to someone behind a piece of glass, you feel like you're disconnected a little bit. You know what I mean? It's not like a normal conversation. I don't know. To me, it feels like, because then, departments can always make the call to just keep it shut. Maybe there's like a little latch on the inside, and they could just have it latched all the time if they want it. But then we have the flexibility of having, so it just seems to me that makes sense. I don't know. If it's not a huge cost, that to have the flexibility of being able to do it either way seems to me like it might make sense.
Comparing
I don't
to
know.
what we have to do for the project, this is very small.
Yeah, it's a small item. I know, but I know all these small items add up. That's why I ask if but I don't know if other people agree or not. I mean, it's certainly also not a huge game changer for me. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, just want to make sure my microphone was on.
Very good.
I don't know. My feel is at this point is to stay with the fixed windows until we get into the numbers. That way we're keeping that expense out of the numbers. If it comes in at that wonderful $5 million project, then okay, we'll add it back in. But right now, I think we should be looking at being very conservative anywhere we can.
Okay. Anybody else?
And what we can do is to have an ad alternate and say, how much is it going to cost? So you know the number, so we can decide then. But the base would be fixed.
That works for me.
The cost estimator is going to kill me by the time this meeting is over.
Yeah,
Probably have like 20 alternates.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, that's fine. Anybody else have any? I don't want to cut anybody off, but go ahead,
So,
Brian.
oh, good.
Thanks.
Sorry, Matt.
I would go back to Tom. What were the numbers or ballpark about who wanted sliding windows or even windows? Was it just COVID that they wanted to add windows? Because maybe there's a potential of just adding some temporary barriers.
I think as far as the sliders, it's only 2 departments. But I think last time was more like COVID driven, that we want to have some sort of a barrier. Granted that for the financial related departments, they actually want to have a screen that comes down at the end of the day, like a
Well, that makes sense.
protection for security.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know. Just to me, I go into a lot of town halls. Not many of them, I talk to people through glass. It's a counter that you just go in and you.
That's what I'm thinking. It's just the counter. That's what I was looking at.
Yep.
And then get temporary plexiglass until we don't need it.
But I mean, I guess to Tom's point, let's see what the cost is. But I think it's one of those things we can certainly, look at as we're fine tuning costs.
Because there might be even though when we have the vaccine and stuff, the people's behavior might change by then. So I can't predict,
Okay.
but maybe we'll put the cost in, find out how much it's going to cost, and make a decision then.
Yep.
So I'd like to mention that I think there's only one sliding glass in town hall that I can think of is Lane up the top of the second story. But a good number of offices in the Ritter building have that already. I know Board of Health, Conservation. Oh, I don't think Conservation does. I know Board of Health does, but like Greg said, I mean, I also go to a lot of town halls, and their majority of them just open counters.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of, I think it's a little presumptuous, and because we don't know really anything to design a new building around a current pandemic. Just my 2 cents on that.
Okay, Heather has something to say. Go ahead, Heather.
Hi, I would just, 2 points I would add is, one, I think there is a customer service vantage point that I think a sliding window adds. And as well as addressing security in our current day of age. I think to have that added feature in place protects employees as well if there were ever a situation where security measures had to be implemented.
Okay, and I suppose true, at the end of the day, you could, if you had glass and you could, I'm just thinking through Heather's comments. If you had glass and one of them was a slider, it was lockable, you could lock the door and lock the glass and the whole thing's, you know, if anybody were to get into the hallway, or if someone left the door open, or main door open or something, then no one could get into the individual suites. Versus if you had an open counter, someone could, I mean,
Come through the counter and
yeah, I hear that. Yep.
and there could also be added curtains on the interior added at at any point to, in the event that happened, to further eliminate an intruder being able to see into an office.
So
Okay,
Heather,
well, I mean,
you're basically saying that you don't necessarily want open counters, but you do want the slider. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, so I mean, let's just see what let's see what the price comes in at. That sound good
Sounds
for everybody?
Yep.
All right.
Great, thanks. So security system is actually also mentioned down under owner furnished items, and we talked about the loading dock already. So we want to, earlier Ed mentioned about the soft costs. So I just want to go over this list. Maybe there's a couple of things that it should be included. So Steve's group is taking care of the studio equipment. So it's not going to be included in the soft cost. At one point, we talk about updating and replacing kitchen equipment. So I want to see if it's going to be off the soft cost, or if we have a survey done already that what is necessary, what is required, what kind of kitchen equipment we need. This is more for the big kitchen by the cafeteria.
Yep. It seems like forever ago that we talked about this. Okay, what are people's thoughts about the about this item?
On the surface, I think it's going to be a high ticket item because my understanding is that the really usable equipment was removed from the building and moved to other uses within the school district. So for that to be a functional commercial kitchen, there's going to be a major investment in equipment.
Yeah, I would just
Go
add
ahead,
that I
Matt.
brought up sorry.
I'm going to
You know-
raise my hand. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, I will go with Matt first. Go ahead. Sorry,
Okay.
Brian.
So with all these businesses closing, does everything have to be brand new? With
Good
all these
question.
businesses closing, I mean, there's plenty of office furniture, of kitchen. There's closing restaurants everywhere. So there's a bounty of stuff available. It just I'm going to reiterate my question. Does everything have to be brand new?
As far as I'm concerned, no, because we're actually planning on reusing a lot of the as much furnishings as we can from other facilities anyway. So, in
Right.
my
I mean,
view,
it's a 60-year-old building, right? 50, 60 years old? I don't know. All right.
your point is noted.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks. On Matthew's note, I just think the procurement might be challenging on that part. But I had mentioned Townsend, the senior center, they had a kitchen. I think that would be a good place to start where we could see what they have for equipment and maybe we could price out something similar to that. But we can look elsewhere for equipment. I'm not going to say I'm a specialist and know what we need, but obviously I think we're going to need some equipment, and I think Townsend is a good place to look at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I caution about Townsend, not that that's a bad idea, Brian. There's probably other places too, but Townsend Senior Center had a real big private donor that bought all that whole thing for them. So, but Groton just built the senior center. I can't remember what they put in it. I was actually the civil engineer on that, but I can't remember what they put in for a kitchen. But yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth on this. Tom, do you have any idea what it would cost to outfit that as a functioning commercial kitchen as part of the project?
Right now we are working, we're doing a kitchen for the Bellingham Senior Center, and it's a pretty small, pretty tight space. So it looks like the kitchen that we are proposing for Bellingham is about half the size as what you have at TCP. And a couple of estimates we got was about $200,000 brand new equipment. So I would say with the size of what you have, it may be talking about 250 to 300. I mean, it really depends on what goes into what's the equipment that is necessary, or if there's any equipment that you can reuse within the current kitchen. I don't know if everything has been moved or there are some that can be saved. So, but that is you're probably between 200,000 and 300,000 sheer guess without validating.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
The operation of that is gonna, that spending that kind of money and not knowing how it's gonna be or who's gonna operate it is gonna be an issue to me. That whole process was gone through a number of years ago. Heather was involved in it. At the time, they were looking at other sources for funding for that type of, for the commercial kitchen and its operation. And with my years on the Board of Health, commercial kitchens are very problematic unless you have an entity running them. So I don't know, there's a big can of worms with that kitchen.
Yeah,
from all
okay.
aspects.
Yeah, I hear that. Matt, go ahead.
So two things, Westminster and Sterling also have relatively new senior centers with kitchens, and they're both really cool. And I'm gonna mention it again. We've still got a bond bill sitting there with $350,000 for a commercial kitchen.
That has not been released.
Hasn't been asked for.
We haven't got the $100,000. Either way, Matt, if we could get the money, yeah, I could agree with that, but I can't see building that cost into this project.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Thanks. I guess my initial thought was that we could price it out and then we can change that, remove it later at a later date. But also I would say that at Townsend, again, I go back to Townsend, they have a position that they're in charge of, the person is in charge of the kitchen, and it's really just part of their position. It's not their full position. It's an added duty on top of their already existing position. So we could add a stipend or whatever the town wants to do, whatever the town manager wants to do. But it could be as simple as a stipend of someone who oversees it.
Okay, my question is, Tom, what are the negative ramifications of not doing it? Are there any? Like, is this just as simple as saying, we're not gonna outfit the space? Does it have an impact on other parts of the project at all in any way?
What I would suggest is to make sure the infrastructure is in place, and I would check with our engineer in terms of sewage, in terms of air change and all that. So the expensive part is really the equipment.
Okay, so if we want to raise funds later as a part of it, as another project, we could put it in later.
Right. So we just want to make sure that we don't need to upsize any new equipment. Right now, we are replacing the entire, not 90% of the HVAC system. So I will talk to my mechanical engineer and make sure we have the power to get to it, so that you can plug things in. At least there'll be some sort of a generic commercial kitchen type, both MEP wise. We accommodate that.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And to Matthew's point too, we could later on get some used equipment if the opportunity arises. It also keeps the cost down, and at least the kitchen is there, just not with the actual ovens, fridge, whatever, but maybe some tables that people can use and bring in their own stuff.
Oh, okay, so
I have one more comment on that. I'm sorry.
go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Matt.
My recollection is that initially when we started looking at that it needed an updated grease trap for the kitchen. Is that going to be included in this at a bare minimum?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, Ace has some sort of a kitchen, so we need to figure that out too on that other side of the building to make it compliant.
Yeah, we need to check the civil, you need to instruct the civils to make sure they take a good look at our sewer regulations. It might need an external grease trap there.
That was my understanding.
Yeah. So just, maybe that's what you're talking about, Tom, but just make sure that they review that.
Okay, thanks. The next one is AV equipment, specifically is really for the meeting rooms and the conference room, not for the PAX area per se.
Yeah.
Can somebody, so typically it's by the owner, so should it be included in this project? And if so, who can we talk to find this number for us?
Well, I'll take a crack at this. I think for the meeting rooms, I think it should be included. I think we need to be able to conduct meetings with cameras in those rooms. So I really feel like in those rooms, it should be included. So I think that, is Steve still on the call? No, he left. I think we should talk to PAC about it. But I think particularly in the primary meeting room, there should be most of these newer meeting rooms now, they're being outfitted with TVs for lack of a better word, so you could do a presentation on them. And the ability to plug in a laptop there so someone could give a presentation and project it to the screen big enough so that the room can see it. Or a couple TVs so that people can see it in the room. I mean, TVs nowadays aren't that much money. But I think that the 3 meeting rooms, meeting room 1, 2, and 3 should be outfitted with cameras and that kind of equipment. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. Go ahead, Brian.
I would just chime in that we should also just talk to PAC and see what resources we can use. Right off the top of my head, I'm just thinking the town hall, the upstairs. I believe there's some TVs in there and maybe some equipment we can use and transfer over.
Yeah, there's definitely cameras. So yeah, that's my point. I think PAC needs to drive this, but I think whatever we need, let's use whatever we can that we have at their instruction, but whatever they think we need within reason, I think we should have it as part of the project.
Will they be able to give us a number, at least plug something in?
I would hope so. I'm not sure if they're the right entity, but I think so.
I feel like they'll be able to tell us what we have, and then Tom can figure out what we need.
Yeah. I would start there. I would start with Steve. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I do recall it being mentioned that the studio at Town Hall would be relocated. And if we're gonna outfit as much as we can with what we've currently got, then it would make sense to me for it all to be by owner, aside from the plugs and the cables and the lines and having everything ready for the equipment should be included in the cost of the project, but the equipment itself should be by owner, I would think.
Okay. Good point. Anybody else?
Yeah.
And some of that could be that PAC has funds available. I seem to remember Steve mentioning, that, and I could be wrong, but for somewhere in the back of my mind, I recollect that cameras would be available if the infrastructure's there to hook up to. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So is that so
take advantage of what they have already and or what they could supply in addition. And then the project takes care of the infrastructure, and then owner purchases the rest to tie onto the infrastructure that's there.
Does that make sense, Tom?
Yeah, so just to clarify, let's say Steve, under his budget, will provide the cameras for the rooms, and but the video monitors, the TV monitors, has to be purchased by the town. So are we supposed to list the cost of the monitors into the soft cost for as part of the budget, as part of the project budget, or the town can, because it might be under a different bucket of money later on?
I just know when we did the school, the school project bought all and we didn't have, granted, it was a little bit of a different situation. There's a lot more technology perhaps in the school, but we didn't own or furnish, the cameras and all that stuff. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. I mean, I could see it both ways. I don't know. I really.
Well, why don't I guess I start with Steve and just see what is needed,
Yeah.
what he can provide, and then he might have some cost information, and then we can decide. We'll see how far we can go.
Okay. But everybody comfortable with that? All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Then, want to move to security. So there's the town clerk needs, they have a vault right now, so we are moving the vaults. We are creating a new vault in the town clerk's office. So we need a vault door, and then in the accounting area, they need an under counter vault. So we will, I think it would make sense if we include it in the construction budget. Because you can
Sounds like it,
operate
yeah.
that without those items. But then regarding security cameras, panic devices, again, typically provided by the owner. Regarding the cost itself, should it
Yeah.
be listed in the soft cost?
Yeah, I mean, we need security in the building. Like, that's not something I don't think we're gonna not do. Like, even if it's an owner, even if the owner's gonna do it, I mean, that was, we heard from a lot of people about that. You got a multi-purpose building with kids and public meeting spaces. I think security is a pretty big issue. So whether it's when you say soft cost, what you're saying, can you just
So-
explain that, just so I make sure I'm understanding what you're saying?
Sure. So we are providing the hard cost, which is the construction related stuff. The soft cost would be fees, permits, and
Yeah.
also furniture and furnishings.
Okay, so you're asking whether or not security cameras and things like that would be considered in that category?
Or if we need to somehow put some numbers down for that category. Or can the town, or can somebody from the town give us a number and say, okay, a security system is going to be X dollars and we'll plug into this.
I don't know of anybody that could really do that, but John Londa, do you have any insight into this? I mean, I know we have a pretty extensive security system for the school, and I know it was part of the project, and I know it was coordinated by the school department and also the police department. But I don't think we as a town, other than giving performance standards, had any kind of input on how much it would, in putting a cost together. But
Yeah, so we didn't provide any of that. It was all provided through the project. However, I would say that the person to consult on this was probably Steve Maldrinos,
Okay.
to see if there's any attempt to try to standardize equipment and platforms. Right now, we're using Genetec software and across all the school departments. And I don't know if there's any standard in the town for town departments. But you clearly going to want the police department to be able to access anything you have. So that's my recommendation, is consult with Steve on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk to Steve, and I think in the past when I talked to him, he did mention that he has some connections with dealing with the security system. So I'll follow up with Steve on that. So a while back, next item is the portable stage. Maybe it's another controversial topic. So maybe we don't need to worry about it for this particular exercise, for this assignments. I just don't want to forget about it.
Yeah, that's the one in the big meeting room.
Yeah.
Meeting room 1.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
My personal position is we still don't need it. That's where I was before, and I'm still there.
I agree with that. I don't think we need a stage.
You can always buy one later on. I mean, if you need it.
That's
Brian?
fine too. If they really want it, the selectmen can order it after.
Okay. All right.
Okay, that's quick. That's good.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think stages, I don't like sitting on them and being a board member that's on a stage, and I don't like presenting to them. I just think it's I think there needs to be we need to have a table and a nice board table that that they sit behind, and that probably needs to be included if we don't have one that we can use, but I think that a stage is.
I can bring a soapbox and a lectern.
Exactly. It's just the feel of it is kind of, I don't know. But I think to that point though, Tom, I do think we need in that big conference room, I do think we need like a spot for, say, 10 people to sit behind and a full board and a couple consultants maybe.
So,
Some type of a modular table that can
Yeah,
be
right, a modular
put
table
together in
system.
pieces as you need for say a 5-member board
Yeah.
versus a 7-member board.
Yeah, and we're gonna want to, yeah, exactly.
so would it be safe to say that the meeting rooms and the conference rooms, we should have new tables and chairs?
I mean, so let's go one by one. So meeting room 1, the big meeting room in the cafeteria.
Yep.
I mean, in my view, we need to have one of those tables that we're just talking about. And I don't
Yep.
think we have one because I think right now it's I don't know, maybe the one that, why can't I visualize the big one? I don't know if that's movable or not. Is that built in? No. I don't know what the table's like in the current Pilata room, but we need to have something that people can sit behind. It probably needs to be able to accommodate like 7 to 10 people. So I would think that would probably want to be new. The
Yeah,
chairs. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't think anything in the Pilata room is nailed down.
Okay, so maybe we just need to see if we can just transfer that over off the stage down onto into this area. But I don't think it necessarily has to be new. But we just have to make sure we.
I think the stuff coming from town hall might work best divvied out into the other meeting rooms and really deck out this meeting room 1 best
Yeah.
we can.
With the notable exception, though, of meeting room 3. I mean, those we have the modular table type thought there too, and I thought that probably needs to be new.
Mhm.
But we could probably figure out how to outfit meeting room 2 and probably the conference rooms. We probably have enough conference tables, I would imagine. But so it seems to me like we might want to figure on new for meeting room 1 and meeting room 3.
And how about the chairs for meeting room 1, like for the audience? Can you reuse or bring chairs from town hall? Or do you need new chairs?
Well, I think we're going to need new chairs for the project. So I guess, because I don't think we'll have enough. So in my view, we'd use the older chairs for the conference rooms and we'd buy the new chairs and put them to Dave's point, put the new chairs in the, meeting room 1 would be real nice, a nice new upgrade.
Now, let's not forget the meeting room 1 is gonna be multi-function, so they're gonna need to be movable, stackable,
Yeah.
foldable, whatever, something, right?
Yeah, another reason to buy new so we could get the right stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree.
Okay, we'll generate the list and then signage and lockers. A lot of times signage is under separate buckets. Lockers, we can own it.
So signage is pretty straightforward. I understand what that means, but what are you referring to specifically by lockers?
Oh, like there might be some staff lockers. Should we?
Oh, okay.
I guess it could be repurposed or bring in from the existing offices instead of new.
Do we have showers now?
We do not.
I don't see why we need lockers.
Do you mean like a locker in an office, Tom, where you can
Right,
lock
either,
valuables?
yeah, or don't know if the staff need,
So not a bathroom locker per se, but a place to lock up if you got a
Yeah.
purse and you.
I guess it's an office, so they could lock the office up.
Yeah, I don't know. These are the kind of thing I'm not, I guess did anybody express needs for that, or is that why it's on the list, or?
I need to go
Or is it
over the
just-
notes. It's been several months, so.
Okay. I mean, I guess if there was an overarching need for them and to get new ones, I'd say yes, but otherwise I'd vote for just bringing over what we have.
Yeah,
Okay.
if somebody needs to store something valuable at some future date, then I think that we could get like a strong box. But I don't see the need for any type of locker.
Okay.
Can we
Next
step
item-
back for 1 second? I'm just wondering about the under-counter vault. Is there an existing one now that can be moved? I understand the vault door, that needs to be new, but the under-counter vault, there must be one already, isn't there?
I don't know the answer to that.
I will double check.
So that's assessing, right? Assessing department or tax collector?
I would think tax collector.
Tax collector. Yeah, I mean, if we can use anything like that we think we can use, I mean, a vault doesn't really go bad. It's a piece of metal, right? So, and it's not going to be visible. So as long as it works and it's functional and it's big enough, might
Okay.
as well bring it.
So another category is office partitions and systems furniture. We talked about there's only a couple of offices that require that. Most folks are bringing their desks with them. Some offices need new desks, but I think we need to include it. Does the town work with any office furniture folks that might be able to give us a number?
Heather, do you have any insight into that?
We use a typical, like local vendors. We don't have a consistent vendor that we use.
Will you
Okay.
be able to send me maybe a couple names? I'll just get some numbers from them,
Certainly.
like a budget. Great, thanks. So that's all I have regarding the owner furnished items. I just wanted to give some updates regarding these items. So last time we talked about lead paint. We were saying that definitely in the areas where there are children or kids, we want to remove them. But the other thing that occurred to us is the fact that because of the conditions of the finishes around the building, everything needs to be upgraded. So we are proposing to remove all the lead paint because we are touching and there's a lot of partitions that need to be reconfigured. So we may have only a few walls with lead paint that's not being removed. So we are proposing that lead paint just be completely removed from the building.
I think I tend to agree with that. I think we talked about this relative to asbestos. I just
Right.
don't think it's a great look to put a lot of money into a new building and then have to stand up and say, oh yeah, no, we didn't remove all the hazmat. Like I think we should clean the building.
Yes.
Yeah, otherwise it'll be more expensive in the future and say, okay, there
Yeah, yeah.
walls.
I mean, and it's not, the issue doesn't go away. Like, even if someday you demolish the building, you still have to do it. So it seems to me like we should remove it as part of the project.
On the
Anybody-
asbestos side, flooring wise in the existing building, is it just the adhesives or is it also the floor tiles? Do you know?
That I need to get back to you.
Okay.
It's the tiles.
John, yeah, John knows, yeah.
Oh,
It's the
John knows,
tiles,
that's right.
yeah.
It is
It's the tiles, yeah.
And the adhesive though, John, isn't it? Is it
Yeah,
both? Yeah,
both.
okay. Thank you. That's all I needed.
So the next item is we were talking about sprinkler system. Not the entire building has sprinklers, and so in the gym area where there are sprinklers, but because there is a wood roof above, we still need to update it so that we need to have sprinklers facing both up and down. So as a result, we will have to replace the ceiling to make that installation. Regarding the building envelope portion, we already talked about the classroom doors. We are replacing the roof, and also we need to add insulation to conform to the energy code. We were talking to our mechanical engineer regarding the chimney. The chimney is falling apart, so it would be very expensive to repair it. With the replacements, with the new mechanical system, we don't need the chimney. We can have exhaust pipe sticking out instead of the chimney. So I don't know from if the committee, if there are symbolic reasons to keep the chimney, or if we take the chimney out, if that's going to be more a symbolic issue than a practical issue.
Anybody in love with the chimney? I really don't know. Dave Passios, do you have an opinion on this chimney?
No, not really. I was questioning whether it's even being used at this point because I know some of the new equipment has pipes through the roof. John, Mr. Wander could give us some insight.
So the chimney is being used for the 2 cast iron boilers. The Wiesmann, which is the condensing boiler, is vented through the roof.
Is that the new one, John?
That's, well, they're all new,
Oh,
relatively
okay.
speaking. They're all 20, moving on towards 20 years old, but
Oh, okay. That's getting old.
yeah, so.
So if there's another alternative for venting other than the chimney, it doesn't sound like there's no one has a concern with, like, if we take out, if we're replacing the heating boilers, Tom, is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if the new boilers don't need the chimney, I don't see why we keep it.
I
It's
mean, we'll have
especially-
vent stacks. It'll be, we
Yeah.
still need to exhaust it, but we don't need the chimney, so.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's just a maintenance issue. Might as well just take care of
It's
it.
going to be an expensive item to fix, so it's better
Yeah.
taking it out.
It's
Okay,
pretty
great.
much a truckload of bricks to be hauled away.
Yeah. It's funny, I can't visualize it. I'll make a point to look at it when I walk by.
It's
the next-
pretty ugly.
Yeah, so, okay, well, there you go. All right,
So the only other thing, the last piece is essentially, we will have new ceiling, new flooring, new finishes. We're trying to keep some of the interior windows along the corridor. But if in some cases, we have to take them out because if there's a new doorway or there's a new transaction window. So that's pretty much the update that I have architecturally. I don't know if there are other issues that we need to. Oh, one other thing is that we are, as Ed said earlier, we're finishing more plans and documents. So we'll be sending those out as we have them available.
Okay.
So the next thing is when is the next meeting?
Yeah, so I think we decided, we put on the schedule the next, 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
Which is the 27th.
27th.
Okay, great.
So we'll go for that. Should we, while we're talking about next meeting, we'll take this. Should we, every time we do this, I want to put this at the beginning of the meeting next time so that we have everybody here. So given that, let's not set our meeting schedule until February because Dave and Michael Ray aren't here. We can do that at the 27th. Does that sound good?
Works for me.
All right. All right, thanks, Tom. Does anybody have any other questions for Tom? I actually have a couple, but I'll open it up to the board just before we move on to the committee. I'll start then. Couple of things. One thing that I thought of, again, while we were talking about the giving you input on when we might get to the midpoint of construction and how long the construction might take. Is there any thought to including costs for temporary space for the people that are occupying the building presently? Or does the committee have any thoughts on this, and might there be any strategies? Because there's people in there that are going to occupy it afterwards, that are occupying it now, that obviously I don't think we're going to be able to do anything about extended day programs. Those might have to be in a school building, but do we need to provide temporary office space for the superintendent's office and that kind of thing?
Now, my understanding, this was going to be a phased project, so if that is the case, then the superintendent would not be impacted until their new spaces, I'm assuming their new space is already complete. I don't know how the phasing would work, and I don't know if that scenario's been run through yet.
Well, we don't necessarily have to think it through tonight, but I just raised that as a concern, Tom, that we have people in the building that we'll need a place to, we'll need to continue working in the building. So if there's a cost associated with that, we need to make sure we include that.
There will be a cost associated with that, but it's important to include that. But just briefly, is the west wing primarily storage? It seems as so we can possibly. I think the tougher thing is to clear out the storage areas. We can renovate the west wing with all the offices, move the school offices into that area, and then finish renovating it. We might have to move ACE elsewhere or the extended day, some of those programs off-site, but something we can talk about further.
So two things relative to that. I'll just say, and we don't have to come up with it today. I'll just say it is that definitely it needs to be included in the cost, but before we get to town meeting, we need to make sure we have that answer, I think, or at least be able to talk to it, because I see that as a question that'll come up. My other comments, or one question is, are we keeping the generator? I saw a generator on the site plan.
I need to get back.
Tom, or John, is that a major standby generator, or what's the?
So the generator that was installed as part of the heating project 2004. It's currently provides protection for the building primarily. So it runs the boilers and the pumps. Should we have a problem, you've always got protection of the building. It currently does not do much for us for emergency lighting. And so we've been running mostly battery packs throughout the building.
Okay. So that's a question. Do we want to, I would assume we want to back up the critical systems in the building with a generator, but do we want to maybe add a few other things? I don't know.
Solar on the roof, some batteries.
Yeah, I mean, all the lights will probably be LEDs, so you can run a lot off it, you know? Yep. So just, anyway, that's just something to keep in mind. And then the other thing I just wanted to bring up is, I thought about it when we were talking about the cafeteria, but I think it probably relates to all the meeting rooms, the bigger ones, is that, are we taking into account acoustics? I've been into some of these rooms. The town of Boxborough is a classic example. They just redid their main meeting room in the town hall. Not just, this was like a year or two ago. And you literally could not hear, the echo was so bad in the room that you couldn't hear people talking. So they had to, get a bunch of acoustical panels and curtains or whatever they put in there. But let's just make sure that on day one, we're not opening this thing and it's a echo chamber when, the board of select, particularly if it's like a cafeteria where I don't know, we're doing, if the floors help absorb or whatever we're doing with floors, but just keep that, I think just need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, because it's, we're using LVT.
Yeah. Stuff's gonna want to bounce.
Right, so we'll figure something out. I mean, we'll definitely use a very high sound absorption ceiling, but that is not enough. We'll consider along the vertical, some of the walls, we might have to do something, but thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. I think that was all. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Next agenda item is review and approve minutes. I didn't see any. Did we, Brian?
So the last two meetings we got cut off before we got to the agenda item. So we still have to approve the November 30th and the December 14th.
Okay. Right. So I apologize. I should have sent those to everybody.
Well, no, I sent them to everybody.
Oh, you did? Yeah, I just should have
Not
probably done it
recently.
again.
They were.
Let me,
from the last week.
yeah.
They were ready to review and approve for.
Does everybody have those in front of them? Are you ready to make a motion to any of these, or what's the pleasure of the committee?
I read them both when they first came out. I had no problems.
I mean, I
with either one of them.
remember I skimmed them too, so I'm happy to take a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented for November 30th. And what was the other one? December 13th?
14th, December 14th.
14th.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call. Brian,
Aye.
Matthew,
Aye.
Dave Passios,
Aye.
and I for me. All right. All right, I put back on here public outreach. Do we want to start thinking about scheduling a forum? Or are we too premature for that, or raise that for the committee's discussion? Or anything else, or like we've talked along the way, Matt, about doing a community forum where we invite. It's more geared towards, the whole meeting is geared towards community input. We give a presentation of where we're at, and we invite invite the committee to kind of see what's going on and ask questions prior to town meeting.
So
that it's
we do that at planning board too. Yeah, we invite the public and nobody comes, and then everybody stands up with their arms flailing around at the town meeting. Ah, I don't like that. So yeah,
Yeah, I know, but
sounds let's do that.
But if we don't make the effort, they'll have their arms swinging about that also at town. meeting.
yeah.
Exactly.
Touche though, I understand what you're saying. So I mean, my thought is probably sometime in maybe February or March, we should probably do that. But probably maybe March, I guess. May is the town meeting, so we don't have,
Yeah.
so I guess
If we've got enough information, let's try to shoot for early March.
okay.
We can
Okay,
talk
let me-
about, go ahead.
Let me just throw it out there that we try to have it at the TC Passios, and we have a kind of a walkthrough maybe.
Okay. See what we can do.
If we can have,
If we can do it,
that.
yeah.
Buildings are closed.
Well, it's a few months away, couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that'd
We
be a
can-
good,
we can hope.
that's a good reason. No, but that's a good reason to not do it in February.
Yep.
Maybe maybe if we get a couple months out, I don't know, fingers crossed. But okay, well, listen, let's take it up. I just don't want to, I'll keep it on as an agenda item so we keep it in focus, but we don't have to come up with a date now, but I just want to keep that on the radar screen. We talked about our future meeting schedule, so we're good there. So I think we're at public comment. I will take any public comment from the public. Okay. Any public comment from the board, from the committee? Sorry.
I see a hand.
Oh, there is a hand. Chris,
Yep.
I was waiting for you.
It's actually not Chris. This is Karen Menard.
Oh, it's Karen.
672 Page Street.
Hey, Karen,
So-
sorry.
I guess I have a question on your public outreach part and not fully understanding it. If your intention is to present to the public and get feedback from them, the closer you get to presenting this at town meeting, the less of an opportunity you'll have to take their feedback into consideration. I guess I'm just not sure what the purpose of a public outreach meeting is if you're getting down to the wire.
Yeah. Thanks, Karen. I think we intended it to be more of a informational session, and maybe if people have questions about things that we could address them. I mean, we did do a pretty extensive public outreach as part of our last, through the late summer, fall timeframe, inviting as much information as we could as design input. So you're right. It's not really intended for that. It's more intended for informational, I guess I saw. I don't know if any of the other members have anything to say on it, but.
I would agree. I think it's informational purposes, and I think it's the more the public is aware, the more they're likely to support.
And the only other thing I would say is that if something really glaring is brought to our attention, then I'm sure we would deal with it. But the intent is informational as to where we are and where we intend to be when we go into town meeting.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, Karen. Thanks. It's always good to keep us honest. But to Karen's point, that is, so and based on what Dave just said, it's a good point. We don't want to be right up against town meeting. Let's give ourselves some room to react. I think would be wise. Okay. I don't see anybody else that is raising their hand. So I think we're, now members of go ahead, members of the committee, go ahead.
All right, so I've been reluctant to bring it up again because I public commented before I was a member of this group at least a couple of times. And I'm just, hopefully this will be the last time, but I'm going to regurgitate some things and make some new points, I think. But So the schools didn't want this building. They gave it to the town. The town decided to take it and make a municipal space out of it. Now we've got the school uses. Okay, so first off, school use versus school programming. So that entire north wing is mostly programming. And all the uses, all the administrative stuff is in the municipal wing on the west, I believe, right at the end. So, I mean, looking towards the future, if they've got programming in this building, there may, and I don't know the answer to this, but there may be requirements that are not consistent with a public space like this. And tonight we find out that the garage is still used also by the schools. And the Brooks house, I believe, is too, but that's out of the scope of this group. I don't, and the schools already said that all the programming that's proposed in that wing, they have facilitated in other spaces currently, and they're not needing that space, is my understanding. And we had the Boys and Girls Club got bumped out for whatever reason, I don't know. And we've also talked about future proofing. We filled every nook and cranny of this building with whatever it's filled with, but there's no room for expansion. If the schools can, and I don't know if this card is already gone, but I just, it's been gnawing at me and gnawing at me and gnawing at me, and I've been trying not to be a jerk about it, but I feel that there's three things that this, well, yeah, there's three things this town typically cares for and provides for: is schools, public safety, and seniors. And this is the opportunity for a municipal space for everybody between 20 and 50 to have opportunity. And I feel the need to make my peace with this, that I don't think that we should be having school programming. I don't have a problem at all about administrivia, office space, storage, whatnot. But again, we filled every nook and cranny of this building, and a third of it is the people who gave it up. And I don't understand the logic or the reasoning behind that. And I think that this is our opportunity to have a municipal building for the community in general, without having all the hoops and the restrictions and the requirements that come with having other people's kids in a building. And I've made my peace with that. So thank you for letting me make it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. Anybody else? Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Greg. Actually, this is just a request for a future agenda item to discuss amongst the committee members. And Michael Ray had brought it up, I'm going to say a number of months ago, and that is talking about the historical significance of the Passios building and how we document that as we renovate this building. I've sent a few ideas and information from my family members to the chair, and we haven't shared that with the rest of the committee. I'd like to do that as an agenda item in the near future.
Do you want me to put it on next month, Dave?
That'd be great if it works in next month. Yeah.
Okay.
And Matt, I don't disagree with you at all. When we were having the struggle between whether or not we could fit the Boys and Girls Club in there, I flat out said it. Either at that time I was saying either administrative offices need to go, or and Boys and Girls Clubs comes in, but there was a lot of pressure to keep the administrative offices in the building. So the only other alternative was to bump them out. And I'm honestly, at this juncture, I'm not sure that the space is available in the other school buildings. It may be. I haven't asked that question recently, but I know they started to move programs into Passios because they had gotten really tight, especially in the primary building. And with the new, again, we can't plan, we shouldn't plan for the long term with COVID regulations. But space needs with the reduced class sizes and stuff is going to be an issue for a few years. So I'm not sure what's actually available for those programs in other buildings. But I do not disagree with what you said.
Thank you.
Brian, anything?
I would just talk about I just want to talk about the school programming. That if they had to, they've had this discussion before that they could go back to the Turkey Hill or the primary school, but there wasn't a designated space just for those after school programs, and it wasn't ideal to put it in the cafeteria for programming, and it didn't make sense to put it back into the classrooms where they're using somebody else's classroom and where that teacher has all their setup and they're ready to go for the next school day. The idea was that it had a separate space for that programming, similar to the Boys and Girls Club, that they have a separate space for their programming. And that age group for the extended day is a different age group that doesn't have their own separate space for their programming. So that was one of the main reasons too that we kept it there. But if it did have to go, we always talk about space needs. If there is the space needs to expand these programs, the superintendent said they could go back to the school. It's just not the ideal situation.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. I want to, I guess, echo Dave and Brian, but I think Dave in particular, and just say thanks, Matt. And also just to say, I think that Matt's not the only one in town that feels that way. So, and perception is everything. So, I appreciate you bringing it up, if for nothing less than directing our thoughts to make sure that we're clear on how that all came to be. I mean, I think to Brian's point, probably the most input we received in this process was from the school department. I mean, the superintendent was on quite a bit of most of the meetings, and we kind of grilled her. We kind of, there was a lot of questions that we posed to her, that were posed to her, and so not without regurgitating all that. But I think it's good to keep it in the forefront of our mind. I also would say too, though, that that space, the north wing, yes, we're designating it for programs, like you said, and I certainly agree with you. But it's also, I would say, unlike the west wing, where we're really doing a lot of renovations, and it's going to be very customized to a certain particular use, certain specialized uses, the north wing is still going to basically primarily look a lot like it does now. And what I mean by that is, on the future proofing of the building, if in the future we come up with another solution for that space, that we could, that space is not being renovated to a point where we're sort of eliminating options for its future use. I think we could use some of that if other options came to light for those programs. That's a space that I think could be flexible for use in the future. So there is some of that future proofing built in, I think, in that respect. But your point still, I totally understand your point. I was amazed when I first started this project. There's a ton of space over there. I couldn't believe we filled up the space so fast. I really couldn't. It was kind of a gut-wrenching decision with the boys, relative to the Boys and Girls Club, which I said a couple times publicly. But I appreciate the comments by everybody. Feel like I had something else, but I can't remember what it was, so I think I'll leave it at that.
I'll give you one more.
Go ahead.
After the, I think the TAPE study was the second one. Is that
Yep.
correct?
I think so.
After that, they got like 5 options. I think the preferred option out of that was to demolish the north wing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
So
when we
that's-
when we started this project, we thought we might be doing that
Yeah.
because we thought we might have a lot of extra space. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
Excellent. Well, we're moving forward. We're making progress.
I appreciate it. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see everybody in a few weeks. Thanks for joining.
I move that we adjourn. Oh,
No,
wait a minute.
thank you. No, we do need a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Did Tom want to say something, or he's just saying bye?
I'm just saying bye,
Okay.
but it's not official bye, so I'll do it again.
Thanks, Matt. So Matt made a motion. And is there a second?
Yeah, a second.
All those in favor, Brian,
Yes.
Matt,
Aye.
Dave,
I'm.
and an aye for
Eddie.
me. Thanks,
At
everybody.
8:25 for Brian. Oh, you wrote it
Yes.
down, I bet. 8:23.
8:23, yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Have a good night,
Right.
everybody.
Good night.